all guilty of doing something like that before, where we open a new bag of cereals or a new bag of crackers and we just shove it back into the pantry without putting it into a proper storage container afterwards. Or in other cases, we've tried using a cleaning spray that's clearly empty, but we put it back where we found it. Now, mainly I wanted to bring up the idea that a clean and organized kitchen doesn't just come from reorganizing the pantry with some pretty glass jars, but it also comes from doing some of those smaller tasks or incorporating some of those small habits that you do over several different weeks. And so I thought it might be useful to showcase a collection of what those examples of random tasks might be that help to overall keep the kitchen more tidy and organized, even though it seems like only one small task at the time. And so here I compiled some examples of those random tasks that I did over the last few months. Before moving on to that first example, let me start by first just refilling this cracker box. Alright, and that's done, and now this will stay fresher for much longer. So as for my first task of the day, this is some red wine that I used for cooking the other day. I didn't finish it all, and it's not the best red wine to drink. So one thing you can do if you're in a situation like this is you could freeze it up and then take whatever quantity you need and use it another day. So I'm going to pour 1 cup of the red wine. And then fill in the ice cube tray. So then I'll know how many cubes equals to 1 cup. So it's the next day and the red wine has frozen into its ice cube form. So now I can move them into another kind of reusable freezer bag. Alright, so now that's done. Next up I had this sweetened basil sauce, which is great to put over an avocado sandwich or on top of cucumbers. And I bought this almost similar thing, so I want to go ahead and refill this into this jar because it's a lot easier to pour out. Okay, super simple and easy, but also just one of those things that, you know, makes it a lot more convenient on yourself to pour it out of something like this than to pour it out of something like this that just kind of spills everywhere, and you can never control the quantity that comes out of this. Hello again. Alright, so I'm back in the kitchen, ready to continue doing some of those easy kitchen tasks to help with the overall cleanliness of it. So first, a very simple task is just to move this into this butter container, and it makes the fridge so much cleaner, it's so much easier to grab, and it's better than having to open this wrapper every time and you never really get it closed properly. It gets all sticky on both sides for some reason. And the rest will just go into this other container. Moving on to the next easy task, refilling some cinnamon powder that I had to use some of it yesterday, so I simply just cut it open and then placed it in this container here. Now when you have moments like this where you have another bag of spices that you just used and you have something to refill it in, then try to do that quickly afterwards and not leave it in this for weeks or months at a time. So one tip is to place it into another container like this so that if it spills over, then it'll spill into here, and then I can try to take some of that and refill the rest into the spice container. Okay, this one is refilled. And now I simply want to refill the rest into a smaller glass jar. Okay, done. And then I can put this one with the other extra spices. Alright, I'm back in the kitchen again, and the kitchen spray that I used just ran out yesterday, so next quick kitchen task to do is simply just to refill this bottle using some of this. Alright, next task done. That was nice and easy. You sometimes find that your kitchen sprays are a bit streaky or they're a bit too soapy, then try diluting it down a little bit. Alright, I'm back in the kitchen ready to tackle the next easy kitchen task that I need to cross on my list, and that is to refill this olive oil bottle again. This is from OXO and I absolutely love this thing. So in between each refill time I also like to give it a proper clean. And then with the last bit of the olive oil, a tiny bit of pasta left. So now I'm just going to pour the rest of the olive oil over that pasta. Now I like this thing so much that I ended up getting a second one just to make it easier on myself, because every time after I would refill this, I would give it a proper clean, let it dry for at least a day until it's 100% fully dry. Especially around this area, you don't want any water left in there. So by having two, it makes it a lot easier that when one is empty and needs a clean, then I can just rely on the other one and refill this one. So then I don't need to put the regular olive oil bottle back out here while the olive oil thing is drying, because I have a second one to rely on. Pasta can go back in the fridge. And by the way, don't fill it up all the way to the top. Voila, that is done. So with this thing, it's so much easier to control how much oil you want to pour out. And it just helps to prevent that oil. You know, when you use these big bottles, you always somehow end up with oil spillovers, especially in the bottom and around this area here. And I find that with this one, it's significantly less. Okay, that's almost done. And I always like to make sure that I have at least two of these bottles on hand. So now that I finished one, I'm just gonna add one more of them onto the regular grocery list. That's added to the list. And now the last step is to clean this thing. I got this bottle brush from OXO as well to make it a lot easier to get in there and clean the bottom of it. The next task is complete. Back in the kitchen again, and I think for today I have one of my last easy kitchen tasks to do at this point in time, and that is to refill the chili flakes. Okay, unfortunately that was last of it, so I'm gonna have to add some more dried chili flakes to our shopping list for the Asian store. So now this can go back. Now the last quick kitchen task that I want to do today. Well, yesterday I left these salt and pepper shakers soaking overnight in some hot water with a bit of dish soap in there because I wanted to remove the labels from it. And now I want to simply refill these salt and pepper shakers. If you bought these from stores, you can often reuse them by taking the lid off of it. This one was luckily just a twist cap lid on it. But if you have those other salt and pepper shakers that have those lids on them that are really stuck in there and they're hard to just simply pull off like so, then you can actually soak them for 5 to 10 minutes in some hot water. That'll help loosen it up, and then you can pop it open. And then another method that you can also try to get those open is to use a blow dryer to help loosen it up. But for now, I'm just gonna rinse off those labels. And I'm taking a clean sponge for this. And now the labels are luckily coming off very easily. Alright, I got the labels completely off. Okay, these have finally completely dried, so now it's time to refill them. jars. Okay, and now these have been labeled, and now I can place them in the cabinet with all the other extra spices. Alright, and now we finally have some good salt and pepper shakers to use again. And so those are the examples of this random kitchen task that I had to do over the last few months. And so the idea was to think of these as catch-up tasks, as with these examples, it could be so easy just to leave them as is and leave it for either the next week or either maybe even weeks later. But with these examples of refilling the olive oil or refilling the spices, I tried to now do that random task as soon as possible after first noticing it. So I encourage you that anytime you open a new bag of cereals to instantly put it into a proper cereal container, or if there's something in your pantry or fridge that you're much more inclined to use by transferring into another bottle, then to again try to do that as soon as possible. Alright, and so I hope that this video brought forward the idea that an organized and clean kitchen doesn't just come from doing one big kitchen cleanup day, but it also comes from doing those random tasks that you do over several different weeks. So let me know an example of a random kitchen task that you've recently done. And so I would love it for you to hit that subscribe button. Other than that, thank you for watching. Bye.